Hello there. This is Operanthesis, and welcome to another episode of Let's Discuss. And today, this is a very special and interesting episode of the series. And I wanted to talk with you about something really cool. So, when I first watched Star Wars, I really didn't pay much attention to the film. I was like 8 years old. I wasn't even a fan there. And I missed a lot of parts. Like, I'm even a bit embarrassed to talk about it right now. Like, I missed half the movie because I went to the kitchen to wash myself some peaches. But, however, there were a lot of things I remembered. And the movie still made a huge impact on my life and made me a Star Wars fan. However, after the first viewing, I remembered some things really wrongly. So when it was second and third viewing, I was like, "Oh my god, that's completely different from what I remember." Because some things I mixed up and imagined something myself or something, and remembered it completely differently. And I think it will be interesting to share how I remembered these scenes after my first viewing, though they weren't that, but something completely different after I checked it on my second and third viewing. And here I am talking about every single thing that I remember I got wrong. Starting from the scene in which Jar Jar is rescued by Qui-Gon after basically one of these Federation vehicles is flying above him, hovering like above him, and Qui-Gon saves Jar Jar by dropping him under it and letting it pass through. Now, in the film, of course, it's this. I don't remember the name of these vehicles, but one of the Trade Federation ones. However, I have to say that as far as I remembered, now this is crazy because I thought something ridiculous up, but after I watched the movie like a week or so, I always thought that it was an AT-ST that was running over Jar Jar. Probably because I just watched Return of the Jedi after that. Not straight after that, but and maybe I mixed it up because as far as I remembered, an AT-ST Walker was basically running over Jar Jar and Qui-Gon pushed him out of the way. So that was my imagination playing some games with me because that definitely wasn't what happened in this scene. So another thing I was mistaken about is that I remembered that Nute Gunray's main assistant throughout the film, who had the most screen time with Nute Gunray and helped him, was Dolte Dauphine, when it was actually Rune Haako, and Dolte Dauphine didn't really have much screen time in the film. So after that, I have to say that remember those messages sent by Seo Bible, the governor of Naboo, basically saying the death toll is catastrophic. You must contact us, something like that. I remember the first time I watched, I for some reason thought that it wasn't Seo Bible who was sending these messages, but although it didn't make any sense for me in that way, I thought it was Senator Palpatine. I mean, that's how I remembered it. But of course, it was actually Seo Bible, and I maybe just mistook him or something because I don't know. And that's what basically I had in mind, but it turned out to be completely not true. As far as I remembered, after basically the first time I watched The Phantom Menace, I remembered that after the scene where the Gungans make an alliance with Queen Amidala and her servants to save Naboo, I thought up of this scene. I don't know what made me think it because I actually for a lot of time believed that this actually was in the movie, but it was my complete imagination. Instead of cutting into the scene where Nute Gunray, Darth Maul, and Rune Haako are talking to Darth Sidious, after that, I thought for some reason that there was a scene where Darth Maul was looking into some kind of electric mirror and thinking about his life decisions with a sigh. Oh my god, where did I get this from? How? Like, it wasn't in the movie. How did I remember this so wrongly? How is this even possible? I'm asking you guys. Come on. How? So after that, another thing that I mistook was basically when the younglings and Yoda, when Obi-Wan comes to the younglings and Yoda to basically find the Kamino planet on the map, what I remembered was that the planet was erased from the data banks, basically not by Count Dooku, but by Jango Fett, which totally didn't make any sense, but that's what I thought. It was just my mistake because I kind of I didn't know who Count Dooku was. Because I missed like half the movie while I was washing my peaches. I came back and I was like, what? What? Who is this guy? Who is this old dude? But and I thought that Jango Fett was the real main villain of the story. Yeah. So a year or two, or maybe a month after I watched Attack of the Clones, I for some reason remembered something completely new that never happened in the movie and just in my imagination. I, for some strange reason, thought that there was some side quest where Ki-Adi-Mundi was on a planet that looked like Kashyyyk, basically doing something or being on some mission in Attack of the Clones, which, oh my god, it's hilarious how wrongly I remember everything. Another minor detail that I remember wrongly that was that after basically the fight between Mace and Palpatine, when Anakin gives in to the dark side and chops off Mace's hand, when Palpatine sort of rises in the original cut, it was like he rised and he talked to Vader for quite some time without his hood, and then put his hood on, however not covering his eyes. And as far as I remembered, he covered his face immediately with the cloak as he stood up and covered his eyes fully. So that was another minor detail that I was quite shocked when I rewatched. Another one of my mistakes in remembering things was when in the opera scene where Palpatine talks to Anakin about Darth Plagueis the Wise. Basically, instead of the senators sitting with Palpatine in his sort of private kind of cabin there in the opera house, it wasn't Sly Moore, Masamida, and the third senator, but rather Ki-Adi-Mundi, Mace Windu, and Kit Fisto. So I remembered it completely wrongly, and for quite some time I thought that these were the Jedi who sat with Palpatine, when in actuality it were the senators. So, my mistake. So after the scene in which Darth Vader has a mental breakdown due to him finding out that he killed his wife, so it's just him getting out of the handcuffs and going and just screaming, "No!" and stuff like that, but I remembered the sequence being longer and basically ending with Darth Vader stepping out of the medical facility and seeing kind of Mustafar from above. So the medical facility wasn't on Coruscant in my imagination, but rather above Mustafar. First of all, that doesn't make sense, and second of all, I think I know why I mistook it. So basically, I went out of the movie to my mother on the second floor when the sequence stopped, and came back when Darth Vader and Palpatine were looking at the Death Star. And I think I got some mistake and imagined that it was Darth Vader looking on Mustafar out of the medical facility, although this isn't what happened at all. So going over to the original trilogy, Return of the Jedi, my father basically downloaded it to me instead of he basically downloaded he paid for a version which was kind of pirated, so it turned out that they sort of fooled us and only had the second half in that purchase, and like starting from the scene where Palpatine arrives. So I did not have the chance to watch all Jabba the Hutt stuff and stuff like that. So I just had to take my word on it from my driver, who wasn't a big Star Wars fan, however seemed to remember some things. And I was really believing him, but it turns out he got everything mixed up as well. When I asked him what kind of role did Jabba the Hutt have, like, because I was interested in him after learning of his existence from Angry Birds Star Wars 2, he said that Jabba the Hutt was the being that swallowed kind of a lot of our heroes and the villains, that he was kind of this monster that was eating everything. And I assume he was mistook him for the Sarlacc, because Jabba did nothing like that. And all my life I just imagined that Jabba was the character who swallowed Luke or something like that. And another thing, I watched a little clip in the internet where they replaced Jabba's band with some other song, like pop song or something like that, and I thought that was what the actual music was in the scene. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. And before you turn this video off, I have to say that I have a website where I'm going to sort of this channel a website for this channel. Right now all I have there is my personal Star Wars fan art, which you can check out. I really suggest it to you because I made it myself, and that's where you can view it. And yes, and also, I'll be adding other things there in time, but right now this is all there is. However, there will be more stuff, so I suggest you check out my website and view my work. Thank you.